Hey everybody, happy Thursday. Welcome to episode 4 of the Midweek Rewind. Sorry we're running a little bit late this morning and we had a little tech glitch. So if you're watching just a minute ago, sorry about the little interruption, but thank you for joining us for another week of the Midweek Rewind. If you missed it, doesn't Brent look snazzy today? Nice little suit over here. We just wrapped up a funeral memorial service. So again, we apologize for being a little bit late, but Brent, let's get rolling. Episode 4, we're still going through the loaded questions series. We've talked about earning money, giving money, spending money, and then this most recent week was saving money. So, I mean, saving money is probably a good idea for everyone, but why is it important that we talk about it from like a spiritual context?
It's important because we need to plan ahead, and God is the ultimate planner. Ephesians tells us that we were chosen before the foundation of the world. Like he planned ahead, like he knew Matt from before time began, and he knew the day you would be born. I mean, he plans ahead. He knows how this world is going to end. The entire book of Revelation is about that. And so God is the ultimate planner. Now, he never makes a misstep. Everything he plans comes true. But for us, we know that there are just unexpected glitches in life, and we need to plan ahead to take those into account. And so financially, yeah, you're going to have a bill, you're going to have an expense, you're going to lose a job, something's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Either you're coming out of it or you're in, or you will walk into some financial, kind of threats. And so, yeah, you just save. It's just prudent. And we went through a bunch of verses about saving money this past week.
One thing that you talked about on Sunday, which actually was kind of a preview for next week, is you talked about how very few people are able to buy anything with cash these days. A lot of people use cards. And John Wiebe, our guest speaker, had the interesting stat that a certain percentage of people didn't have access to $400 of cash. Right. So just that was just a reminder of the reality that so few people in our culture are saving today. So
correct.
We'll talk about that and then give us a quick, we'll talk about more this Sunday, I'm guessing, with the debt.
Yeah, with, not saving generally results in debt. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you don't save, you're going to have to charge for the emergency that you weren't saving for. And so, yeah, this coming Sunday, no spoiler alert, I mean, it's all great, but we're going to talk about how for Christians, debt shouldn't be normal and necessary. Now, I know that debt will be necessary for buying a house. Mm-hmm. It'll be necessary for big expenses. But in America, we just think debt is how we're supposed to live. And so we'll kind of turn that on its head a little bit, but we're going to talk about no debt this coming Sunday. And like I said, when you don't save, there's a much better chance that you're going to go into debt because you don't have any cushion in your life, in your financial life.
Yep. So one thing that, as we get started here, we have one question came in already this morning, and I was pretty impressed with this person. They were apparently taking very close notes on Sunday. So you showed some verses on the screen of some verses that say that we should save for the future, and then there were some that seemed to say you don't need to save because God's going to take care of you. So there are verses on both sides of that, which is interesting by itself. But this person noted that all of the verses that you shared about not saving come from the New Testament, and all of the verses that talk about that we should save are all from the Old Testament. So is that just a very strange coincidence? Is that on purpose on your part? Is that the only verses in the Bible that talk about those things, or why? Tell us about that. Why did that happen?
So in a good way, I was cornered on Sunday about this.
Okay.
In a good way. I mean, it's fine. But it is true that all the examples I gave that said you should save for the future were in the Old Testament. And all the examples I gave that said God will provide for you, the New Testament never says don't save.
Right.
Okay. But yes, I don't have an answer. The bottom line is that the New Testament focuses more, and it's the culture of Jesus. It focuses more on the danger of accumulation. So Jesus said it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get to heaven. Here's something, and I hope that there's no offense taken here, but around the world, poor people and women accept Christ sooner than rich people and men. So if you go with the women versus men and kind of the stereotype, men don't ask for directions. Women do.
I ask Google for directions.
Yes, but we don't stop and ask a
for,
person like,
right.
how do you, because we don't want to be discovered.
Right.
Because like they say, for a guy, we're not lost until we run out of gas.
Exactly.
Up until then, we're just driving around.
Right.
Okay. But men, and this is not a sexist statement, but around the world, men are more reluctant to ask for help than women. It's just true. And so since women are sooner to ask for help, they'll ask for help from a savior. So there's a 60-40 gender gap, 60% women, 40% men in church around the world. And so this whole idea of saving money in the New Testament, poor people, by the way, sorry, I didn't have this thought finished. Poor people are already in a posture of asking for help financially. And so they're sooner to ask for help spiritually. Mm-hmm. When you have money and savings and lots in your pantry and a 401k, flat out, you don't have as much felt need of Jesus. Mm-hmm. And so the Old Testament, for whatever reason, does speak to this idea of saving for the future. But New Testament, and it has to do with dependence on Jesus and asking him for help. When you have a bucket of money, you're far less likely to ask for help. And that's why in 1 Timothy, it says, it warns us, instruct those who are rich to not put their hope on the uncertainty of wealth. And so the long rambling answer, sorry about this, Matt.
No, it's good.
I don't know why the Old Testament speaks more to saving specifically than the New Testament. But I do know that Jesus considered money to be a rival God. Mm-hmm. He says you can't serve God and money. Mm-hmm. And throughout the New Testament, there is this warning to watch out for the dangers of money. And when you have a lot in savings, it's pretty easy to not need God.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's that proverb. It's in the Old Testament somewhere. Someone can Google it. But it says, don't give me so little that I have to steal, or so much that I don't need you. Mm-hmm. And it's a good proverb. God, I just don't want to be so poor that I'm tempted to steal. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to have so much money that I don't need you. Yeah. But that's my best shot, is Jesus, and the culture of the New Testament was wealth gets between you and God. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't speak a lot about saving.
Yeah. I think that's a good answer. Well done.
For now.
Yes. And for a reminder, if you're watching now, we are taking questions live, so feel free to type those in, and we'll do our best to answer those for you if you have any other questions from this week or about saving. So Brett, one of the main points from your sermon was the idea that Jesus doesn't really care about your net worth. Whether you have $1 million, $0, that's not really his main concern. So, and there's examples in the Bible of rich people who were wise and looked upon favorably from God, and poor people who maybe weren't. So you can talk a little bit about the heart and the integrity is actually what's more important than the dollar amount.
One of the questions I asked was, is there a specific amount of money at which point God says, you've saved too much? Mm-hmm. Whether there's a line that moves us to greed, or there's a line that moves us to hoarding. So we were kind of unpacking that question of, is there an amount of money that is too much? And we gave some examples from Old Testament and New Testament.
Way to go.
Of how it's not the amount of money you have, it truly is your heart. So you can have $100 to your name, and your heart is miserly, greedy, and hoarding, and God is not pleased with you. Mm-hmm. You can have millions and millions like Job, and God calls you a righteous person because it's your heart. And so everything is about heart when it comes to the amount of money. Mm-hmm. Having said that, the more you have in savings, the higher your net worth, the easier it is to not trust in God. Yep. And that's why there are so many warnings.
Yep. And that goes back to the poor and rich thing you were just talking about. So one of my favorite parts about your sermon was the very end. You said you and your friend Google shared a list of 25 ways that people can save money if they, for whatever reason, are struggling with that. What were some of your favorite lessons learned from Mr. Google?
Well, certainly the ones I enjoyed sharing more are the ones that made me smile. And so number 15 or 17 or whatever on this list was titled Redefine Your Relationship with Amazon Prime.
Yes.
And people have in dating relationships, they're not sure if they're dating or not.
Right. DTR.
Okay. Define the relationship.
Yeah,
so they have a DTR conversation. And so, I had my little conversation where I found more humor than anybody else did, but I'm talking to my imaginary Amazon Prime about how I needed some space.
Yes.
Which prompts me to ask you this question, Matt. What impact did that encouragement to redefine your relationship with Amazon Prime have on you?
So a little background. I told Brent this ahead of time that soon after the service on Sunday, I went on Amazon and bought a couple things.
No!
But we're out of like water filters for our fridge. So, that's not so fun.
You can rationalize sin.
Well, I know, but I did. I bought something on Amazon that I totally didn't need this week. And I was thinking about you the whole time. But so I don't know if I need to ask for forgiveness or
no.
In front of all these
if
people.
you have buyer's remorse, you got to deal with it.
No, but that was great. And so you threw me under the bus. So I'm going to throw you under the bus.
Okay.
Do you know what a meme is? No.
It's not selfish, is it? Me?
No.
Oh, it's those little picture things.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
There might be a meme of you tomorrow.
Okay.
About your Amazon Prime conversation.
Okay.
So, if you're watching, check out the First Newbie Facebook page.
Where do you
tomorrow.
use those things anyway?
I'll be on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
But because you just made me laugh, and so I took a picture of you, and that'll be on the Facebook tomorrow. So, but anyway, yes, you're correct that I spent money on Amazon right directly after your sermon.
As we were talking, I'm gonna change gears here.
Yeah.
We don't script this stuff. So
if you can't tell.
So next Thursday, I'm going to Burundi, and Burundi is one of the, if not the poorest countries in the world, and something like 90% of their population lives off what's called subsistence agriculture. And the country is so impoverished. The economy is not there where you can normally just climb up out of poverty with hard work.
Right.
That you are stuck in subsistence living. And when I say that 90% are in subsistence agriculture, that country's right on the equator, so they can grow stuff. They have rain and heat year round, but certainly heat year round. But subsistence agriculture is where they are so poor, the limited amount of land, no ability to build up savings. They only raise enough food to stay alive. It's subsistence. And so I'm leaving a country here next Thursday to go visit our missionary Travis Jost over there. I'm leaving a country that, we have realities of how welfare can trap people generationally. I'm not saying it's easy to climb out of poverty. It's hard. But I am saying we live in a country that has an economic system and enough economic stability that it is possible to climb up and gain great wealth. And there are a lot of countries, grew up in Indonesia, where it's much, much harder to do that. And so I preach a sermon here on saving money. And I said it on Sunday. There were people in our church that have literally millions and millions of dollars in net assets and savings. And the irony is we just forget how blessed we are, and that we even live in a country that provides us an opportunity to save money for the future.
Yep.
We also don't see the dark side of saving money. And at this point in Joan and my life, where I'm 56, and basically that 50, 55 to 70, that is the peak income and lowest expenses for everybody. I mean, it's just logically, you're climbing through your career, and that should be lowest expense, highest earning capacity. And so we're saving. We haven't always saved money consistently, like X amount each month, but we, like millions and millions of other Americans in our age bracket, are saving. That's something that a bunch of the world doesn't even have an opportunity. And so we just need to say, oh, thank you, Lord, but help me to watch out, because it's too easy to put my security in my bank account and I'm going to be okay. I can, travel, and I'll live out my dreams. And it's not too hard to say that becomes pretty selfish. And so anyway, the Burundi trip is saying, that's kind of a calibrator. Keep things in perspective.
And I think a lot of us, fortunately, we have enough resources to meet our needs. And so if the thing that can creep in above that is things like jealousy and envy and greed. And so that's another thing that we struggle with, that we forget the blessing that it is to even struggle with those things in a weird way, because people in Burundi don't even understand the kinds of things that we. So it's a mind shift for sure.
Let's talk a little bit about. We also mentioned, hey, I want to talk about this. So, do you think it's genetic? Seriously, that some people are more open and prone to saving than others? Do you think there's a spending gene? Do you think there's a saving gene? I mean, is it apart from even how you were raised? I don't know, but that's why I'm asking this guy here. He's going to answer it. But I just wonder, what's the role of environment, your family of origin, your personality? I'm not here saying there's a savings gene in some people. But you just look at people, and some people find it easier to spend less and save more. And other people, they're not greedy. They just like spending money and saving less.
Right.
So I just have always been curious. Like, I'm not a big spender, but it's not because I'm a good Christian. I think if I were a non-Christian, the same Brent, I'd still be like that. So what is it? Because my siblings may not be in the same place. I don't know, So, okay, answer that one. Is there a savings gene somewhere deep inside of Matt Erisman, you would say?
I have no clue. Based on my own personal experience, it seems like my wife Tilly and I are kind of a happy medium of our parents.
Okay.
So I would neither of us are exactly like our parents, and as far as like spending, but I would say we're probably a happy medium of what we've been exposed to.
Okay.
So
are you more of a saver, or is Tilly more of a saver?
Neither of us are extravagant. So we both spend money on ourselves, but it's never extravagant. So like treating ourselves is like 2 for $20 at Applebee's. But
who is more apt to save money? Who would say, let's not eat out so we can save more, or let's not?
We're pretty on the same page.
Oh, how sweet.
I know, we're lucky with that. Yeah. But I think we're on the same page because neither of us are an extreme. Neither of us spend thousands of dollars, and neither of us never spend any money. So I think we are lucky that we're both in the middle. What about you and Joan?
Joan would be more frugal. She's just a couponer, and she's kind of old school on that, but yeah, she's more of a saver. But we're we fight over other things, but we don't
Yeah.
collide over that because we're pretty close like you.
Good. So you talked about personality, and so I guess if you were to, I mean, we're kind of sort of starting to run down here, but if you were to give, other than your 25 tips that you shared on Sunday, if someone does have a personality that it's just doesn't come naturally for them to save, maybe they're in a job where they're not struggling, but they don't really have, bucket loads of extra. What advice would you share, other than you shared that 25 pretty practical things, but I mean, it's probably just start somewhere, right? That's usually what you say is just start somewhere.
I might push it a different direction. So
Okay.
if there were one thing, so you're not saving, you don't have a heart or desire to save, but you're kind of, okay, he preached about it, they talked about it, yeah, it makes sense, I should do it. So if you're not there and you ask the question, what might help, like the heart, so that you actually have some want to. Ironically, I would say start with giving generously to God. So one of the things I haven't talked about in this series is a budget. You know why?
Because you don't do it.
We don't have a budget.
Right. Wait, the church does. To clarify,
the church does. And there's a lot of accountability there. But yeah, I'm really, really disciplined in a lot of areas. I had my devotions this morning. I jog regularly. I brush my teeth and take showers. I mean, I'm really disciplined in a lot of ways.
We're grateful for all the things you just said.
But I've never been disciplined in a budget. But here's where I go to the tithing thing. I'm pretty convinced that when a person gives generously, God just takes the stupid out of them, the financial stupid. I'm sure there are exceptions. But if you are struggling or a person is struggling to save, I just say start giving. Ironically, it's counterintuitive. So this won't betray any confidence or anything, but we give away through our care fund, and we have some meticulous standards. We give about 90% of what we give is to people in dire straits from our church or friends of people from our church, just for the is this legit factor. About 10% goes to people off the street because we need to give a little bit without holding too tightly. But we give between $50,000 and $75,000 away a year. And one of Jesus' primary things was give to the poor, help out those, okay? But it is striking, Matt. I don't live in all those details right now, but over my 30 plus years of dealing with this, to a person who came and said, I can't pay my electric bill, I can't pay my utility, I can't pay my mortgage, I got it, whatever. To a person, if I asked them, have you been tithing 10% of your net or gross for the last year? Zero. It's just really interesting that when a person chooses to honor God with the first fruits, they just said, this is the non-negotiable, I give, that God increases contentment, he decreases greed. And when you give and your contentment is increased, your greed is decreased, guess what? You naturally spend less. Oh, now I have something that I can invest in an IRA, that I can put in a savings account, a mutual fund, a money market account, or something. So, yeah, I could say start somewhere, put $1 in the bank every week. Okay, yeah, you start somewhere. But if you really want heart change for saving for the future without being greedy or hoarding, counterintuitive, give money away, because God does that heart surgery. And he just keeps people who are doing that from making foolish decisions financially. They don't overspend. They just end up doing it right. I'm sure there are exceptions, but it's true.
That's good. So one more thing that I feel like, are you familiar with the term adulting?
Yeah.
So as I'm adulting, another thing that I feel like I didn't get great training just from school or whatever is just the investment world. Like that's one of those things that I feel like you, as a young adult, no one really explains that well to you. So if someone, because that's part of saving, right? Should you keep it in a savings account or should you invest it? Do you invest it yourself in stocks or do you do Roths or IRAs or whatever? So let's, hypothetically speaking, Brent, if someone, possibly a younger adult, is wanting to explore that, I know, so we had John Wiebe from MB Foundation. We do the Financial Beast University. Anything else about getting started in that world, if that's a new concept to people watching?
So, yes, money doubles every 7 years at 10%. That's just a known fact. The stock market, some people would say that it generally just nets about 3 to 7% fees, and the ups and downs. There are years when it'll do 30+% return. Yes, it's a gamble and everything I say has an asterisk, and you cannot sue me. We are not a financial institution. Yes. But to be good stewards, I honestly believe it's certainly defendable to invest early. So if you can put $2,500 or $5,000 in a Roth IRA at age 25, and parents out there, get your kids to think that way. That money, again, it doesn't always make it, but at 10% return, it doubles every 7 years. And so you're 25, 32, 39, 46, 53, 60, 67. It's going to double 6 times by age 67. Because you were disciplined to save money at age 25. It's deferred gratification. It's playing it kind of conservative now so that you have a harvest later. And the point isn't to get rich. Mm-hmm. The point is to save for the future and realize that there are going to be expenses and you're going to be retired and Social Security may not be solvent at that point. And you got to have some income. Right. And so even when you lose your job or are retired, let alone when you have emergencies along the way. But yeah, without apology, I just think young people need to put some money early on. And of course, best case scenario, they keep doing that. Mm-hmm. But start early. And yes, invest. Is it a risk? Yeah, it's a stock market. Mm-hmm. But it's worked for a lot of years. Yep. It brings corrections over time. But anyway. So don't sue us, but save for the future.
Right. And one thing I'm grateful that I personally live in this internet era where like my tithe is automatically taken out and some investing is automatically taken out. Yeah. So it's kind of, if you do it well, you sort of forget that you're saving, which you're kind of tricking yourself into saving, which is kind of nice. So, okay, we're running out of time here. Before I forget, you're going to Burundi. Yeah, and I'm going to Atlanta next week. So next Thursday, there will be no rewind. So we'll remind you, but just a quick heads up right now, we're going to take a week off next week as we're both traveling. We'll be back the following week. But wrapping up here, anything else you wanted to wrap us up here with?
Hey, we're talking about getting out of debt on Sunday. Mm-hmm. So show up. I think it'll be worth it.
Yep, definitely. All right. Thanks for joining us. Have a great time in Burundi, Brent.
Thank you. And Atlanta.
And thank you. I'm going to Atlanta. Yes, not quite as far away, but it'll be great too. Yeah. So I hope to see you Sunday, and then we'll see you again here on Facebook in 2 weeks. So have a great day. We'll see you next time.